Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you Game 5 in a best of 7 series between Renson and RiseN. Game 5 taking place on Lost Temple, Renson spawning as the blue Protoss player at the 7 o'clock position on the map. Meanwhile, over here, Renson spawning as the 9 o'clock, or at the 9 o'clock location as the red Protoss player. So Protoss versus Protoss mirror matches happening in abundance here in the Vista Lasik tournament. So far, a lot of the games have really opened up my eyes in terms of the Protoss versus Protoss mirror match. I like the Protoss versus Protoss mirror match more than Terran versus Terran or Zerg versus Zerg recently, just because the Terran versus Terran always seems like a Mexican standoff with Vikings and siege tanks. And I'm hoping that something can be changed about that. I have a couple ideas, and I'll probably try to talk with the people at Blizzard, but I don't know if they would even, take any of my advice. Anyways, back here we see Renson just currently using just chrono boosting both sides, doing the same exact strategy so far. So far, just trying to chrono boost, trying to get that economic game going for both sides. Most likely, both sides will be warping in a gateway in just a moment, and then trying to scout out their opponent's position. So yeah, we see a 13 gateway coming in from RiseN. Meanwhile, it looked as though Renson also going for a 13 gateway as well, a little bit faster, about 2 seconds faster, and now moving out with this probe. So this probe able to gain sight and now making its way over here. So instead of doing a cross spawn check, and oh, in comes the probe. So the probe was able to quickly see that Renson came in from this position, and now we see a probe moving out from RiseN making sure that it is not coming in from this location and instead coming in and will not be able to find. So we see a Renson in the base of RiseN able to scout out that early assimilator, which means that most likely it will be followed by a cybernetics core as this probe just continues to wander around on the inside of this base. One gateway here, another pylon here, most likely a cybernetics core will be placed right in this position here, so one zealot will be able to hold off any sort of zealot rush in a very, very narrow choke point. Back over here, we see a probe just continuing to wander around on the inside. We do see the cybernetics core currently being warped in, and now in comes this probe. So that probe now squeaking by this very, very narrow opening in the base, able to see what's happening, and now able to click on the Nexus. The Nexus has a lot of energy, so I'm a little surprised. Renson saving a lot of energy. Meanwhile, RiseN now chrono boosting more and more probes, will be able to get an economic lead. No gateway training any zealots, however, and now one zealot being trained up by Renson. So Renson now with one zealot there will try to hold off this one probe, trying to get some additional damage onto that probe, make sure it doesn't get too much scouting information as the blue Protoss player. Oh, blue Protoss player getting the second assimilator and also gas denying RiseN's second assimilator. So it looks as though RiseN will be forced to run off of one gas for quite some time, will not be able to warp in that assimilator until he first gets past the 900 damage on this assimilator. One back over here, we now see one probe just hanging out by this Zelnaga watchtower. However, the assimilator was cancelled, so RiseN not even taking this assimilator just quite yet, now chasing after this probe. The probe down to 20 hit points, probe moving slightly slower than that stalker. That stalker looking like it will be able to get the final shot on that probe, and yeah, there we go, and waiting for that shot. Oh, however, a new stalker coming in, and a new stalker getting some damage onto that stalker over there, and nicely done, saving a low hit point probe, and that probe will be able to say wee all the way home as it is able to save its life. Now 2 additional gateways being warped in by Renson, so Renson now with 2 additional gateways, and now going for a 4-gate push. So 4-gate push coming in from the blue Protoss player. Meanwhile, RiseN getting 2 additional gateways, and now perhaps maybe trying to go for a robotics facility. Yes, there we go. Getting a robotics facility will be able to train up those immortals and those observers. Stalkers now going at it, trying to fight back against Renson's stalker. Stalker now down to 77 hit points as these 2 stalkers now try to deal some critical damage towards the zealot. The zealot, however, now down to 58 hit points, and it may get taken down as this one zealot now down to 40 hit points. Additional units are not being trained out of this location, and even though chrono boosting off of the cybernetics core, not going to really be able to not even getting that the warp gate should already be coming up. So warp gate's now coming in, 2 additional zealots now being warped in as well, as these stalkers now try to push, or are these stalkers able to get that one zealot in the base back over here. 2 stalkers now in the base of Renson, now able to get this Zelnaga watchtower activated. and we'll be able to see any stalkers and zealots as they come out in the center of the map. More and more units being placed down by both sides. Army-wise, both sides are fairly even, 650 versus 550. However, the additional sentry throwing off the gas content of Renson's army. So Renson does have some sentries, and those sentries will be able to place down force fields. Now, as this fight continues, what's going to be critical is whether or not RiseN gets a critical mass of units and is able to push into Renson before Renson gets this expansion up. Renson, with this expansion, will be able to get an economic lead, and as soon as he's able to start mining out of that location, it will give him a very, very strong lead. However, RiseN has the stronger economy going into this, so even if Renson has this expansion up and running, he will not be able to fully utilize it because he does not have that many probes. Back over here, we now see RiseN moving out with one observer, and RiseN, as soon as he sees this expansion over here, may try to push out. So now we see the stalkers now trying to engage. No, it looks as though Renson not going to engage just quite yet. Taking a look at the harvester count though, 34 to 24, that is a very, very big discrepancy, as RiseN now getting a robotics bay and Renson getting a robotics facility, so he is a little bit behind on tech. And now Renson trying to mine out with more probes. 8 probes off of this mineral patch over here will be able to mine very quickly. Back over here, not too many probes either mining, so he needs to get more and more probes training. However, he is not working on his economy. Taking a look at the harvester count, you can see 35 harvesters for RiseN mining off of 8 mineral patches. Meanwhile, Renson with 24 harvesters mining 800 minerals as well. So that is the discrepancy, because Renson is mining off of 16 instead of 8. Even though he is behind 10 harvesters, he is still able to keep up in this game, economically speaking. Now, one observer making its way over into this position. No observer here, so this one observer will be able to follow this army as it tries to move out. Army-wise, 1575 versus 1200, so Renson does have the stronger army at this stage in the game. He also has more mineral patches to mine from, and he should be able to slowly get a stronger economic lead going. Needs to start chrono boosting more probes though. He definitely needs a stronger economy if he hopes to be able to catch up. And RiseN has the stronger economic game. So RiseN with that one Colossi, and now researching extended thermal lance research, or extended thermal lances, and getting a second Colossus. So he will have 2 Colossi, and if he's able to use these Colossi very effectively, these Zealots now trying to engage one Colossus with that range of 6, unable to really deal any damage, and now trying to pull back here. We see these Colossus now trying to come in with that DPS. Immortal being pushed back, wants to make sure that this Colossus is not getting damaged by that Immortal. Immortal with a very, very fast attack speed, and now using the Colossus to push back, and now if that Immortal gets taken down, down it goes. And now all of these units will be forced to pull back, so the army all of a sudden switched because of this one Colossus. Colossus now trying to get up onto that high ground, and if he's able to keep this one Xel'Naga watchtower, will make sure that all of these sentries are getting taken down, and Renson now in trouble. These sentries move very slowly compared to those stalkers, and now these Colossi will be able to just simply walk over this and then continue to chase. Stalkers now moving into this position here. However, the army of RiseN now coming in to engage. 2 Colossi, more Zealots coming in to engage, and this is going to be a nice flanking attack here. We do see one Colossus down to 156 hit points as these Stalkers try to focus down those Colossi. Colossi now getting focused down. However, Zealots now being able to engage, and Zealots acting as a good meat shield against these units here, as the army of RiseN will be forced to retreat. Very, very low on hit points, even though he is double in size. I guess you would say that their morale is low since they are so low on hit points. The extended thermal lance research has finished, so RiseN will be able to use a range of 9 against a range of 6 and a range of 5 on these units here, and that's going to be a very, very bad sign. And these Colossi need to pull back, and all of these Stalkers are just getting torn apart by these lasers, just drawing a line in the ground. These Stalkers now trying to pull back again. However, it's not going to work. More Zealots coming in, but those Zealots will fall very quickly to the 2 Colossi standing tall with that range of 9. And now I believe Renson is going to say GG. Renson's saying ... fine, I believe, yeah. Unable to take that game, and now we have RiseN moving on along to the finals of the Vista Lasik tournament. So very nicely done by Renson and RiseN in this mirror match. RiseN had the stronger economy going out throughout most of the game. RiseN had more harvesters, so he had 45 harvesters, at one point he had 32 harvesters compared to Renson's 22, I believe 22 or 24. So even though we saw Renson with a low ground expansion here. He was not able to fully utilize it. And then by the time that RiseN was able to establish his expansion, he was able to split up his probes and then catch up in the economic game very, very quickly. He also bid his time very well, trying to get those colossi and then getting that extended thermal lance research, also using force fields to prevent immortals from focusing down his colossi. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between Renson and RiseN here on Lost Temple.